what I really like. And I think that's, if you don't have a motivation like that, you got to get one. That's what it takes. Well, hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I am Jim Gass, and you're on No Law Firm Left Behind. Joining me today is a fantastic person right here, Sasha Naiman. Sasha, say hi.
Hi, everybody.
So, Sasha, thanks for joining me today. I just don't do introductions because I butcher them every time. So, it is always the first thing we do is to allow our guests to do their own introductions. So, if you don't mind, tell our viewers and listeners actually, because we're going to be on podcast. Tell them about your role at the Children's Law Center, a little bit about yourself, and talk about your mission, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to be here to talk to your listeners and to you, Jim. I'm Sasha Naiman. I'm the executive director at the Children's Law Center. And so I've been here now for 3-4 months. So I'm getting my bearings and I'm really loving it. I'm excited to tell you about Children's Law Center. So Children's Law Center, we're a nonprofit law firm, and our work is to protect the rights of children and of youth. The goal is to have them successfully transition into adulthood, to be able to self-advocate, to contribute positively to our society. Their safety and well-being, it's maybe kind of too often just said and forgotten that kids are the future, because that really is so true, and we have to dig into that statement. So this is an organization that's been around for over 30 years. It was established in 1989, and I think it became a 501c3 in 1990. And we've been doing this work for a long time. We work in Ohio, we work in Kentucky. We provide individual legal assistance, so fully functioning law firm. We have that one-on-one representation for children and youth, but we also do a lot of community education. We do policy research, so we're advocating to change systems at the same time as we're working one-on-one with children and families. The clients we're serving are as young as a few months. It's children age 0, and it could also be teenagers and even youth and young adults. So people who are in their youth, who might be in their early 20s, and we all know the brain development, right, is still happening from 0 to 25. That's still all youth. And what I really have enjoyed at the Children's Law Center is that we're looking at elevating the voices of the people who are being impacted by some of the challenges we're dealing with, right? We're talking to children, to families, to young adults, to teens, and in helping them navigate their own legal challenges, we're also learning about what are the problems in the systems, what are the issues in these laws, how can we work collaboratively with legal communities, courts, law enforcement, but also with non-legal communities, service providers, treatment providers, trauma care, so that we're looking not just at individual cases, but at trends, and then using that knowledge to reform the system. And then once we get a better system, we again are advocating for people in that system, seeing what they say, elevating their voices to create, this continuous kind of cycle of change.
That's awesome. And I have to be honest with you. I'm sad. I love you, Sasha. And Sasha and I have known each other for a long time. It's sad that we have to have an organization like CLC in a way, right? That children have an unspoken voice in, and we have to have somebody speak up for them. I don't, I'd rather not have that. But on the other side, on the policy side, to me, I could see on a big machinery like our country, right, and our policies and our, and so on and so forth, how groups can be lost in that. Okay, I mean, just get caught up in the cog somehow and not be heard. So in that regard, because of that, I'm really excited that we have CLC in your organization, in the organization. So can you tell us a little bit about? And by the way, I love that the children are our future. It's there was a song way back, and it's so true. We forget about it so often. And I got to tell you, I worked with children's organizations for 25 years. I've worked with children's organizations, and it is a really really touchy spot in my heart, to see any child suffer, whether it be physically, emotionally, mentally, or opportunity wise. So, what types of rights though do you find that you're protecting a lot of the majority of the rights or policies that you're trying to drive at CLC?
Yeah, so I guess I would separate it into three categories. The first would be juvenile justice. So these are children and young adults who are um, arrested. I guess it could be juvenile justice system, and sometimes it's adult criminal system, because we have 14, 15, 16 year olds brought into adult systems. And even when they're 17, 18, 19, and when they're legally adults, it's still not the right system for them if they're in the adult
Yeah,
system
yeah.
sometimes. So that juvenile justice piece is one part. So here we're talking about ensuring that there is the appropriate, developmentally appropriate care for children in these systems, that they are safe if they are in conditions of confinement. So if they're in juvenile or in adult facilities, that they're not being unnecessarily brought into adult systems, that we have these appropriate responses when kids do things that might be illegal, and that they have due process and the correct protections, that we're conscious of racial biases and systemic racism in these systems, and that once they leave these justice systems, that they don't have lifelong barriers because of their records, that they have
Mm,
opportunities to really remove those records and to move
mm,
forward. So that's maybe category one, is that juvenile justice. The second part is in the child welfare system, and ensuring that children's rights are protected. And I guess I would mean that even broadly, is how to ensure that kids who are victims of abuse and neglect and maybe other types of crime, that they have guidance through these systems. And oftentimes that takes the form of something called a guardian ad litem. It's somebody who is there to ensure that the child's um, interests and voice and desires are elevated to the court. So you might have hearings where there's allegations of abuse or neglect in like a family court. Um, and the state has an attorney, and the parents might have an attorney, but we are the attorney for the child, right? What is in that
mm,
child's best interests? Or
mm,
in some cases, children might be victims or witnesses of crime, and they're actually getting pulled into a criminal proceedings where it's not against them, it's against somebody else. And we would be the attorney for the child to make sure that the way that they are giving testimony and the way they're involved through that process, that their rights are being protected. So it's a kind child safety and welfare is the second category. And the third area is education. So kids going through school, I mean, they're entitled to their educational rights, but oftentimes we see kids, especially who might have some special education needs, who need to navigate more complex legal systems to make sure that they're getting their rights to education, that schools aren't using exclusionary discipline like suspension or expulsion inappropriately, so the child is losing their ability to learn, but also that they're getting their, do they have behavioral needs, mental health needs, other disability needs, that we can help them protect as they're going through the education system. So these children's rights are coming in the form of state rights, of federal rights. We might be in state or federal court, we might be in administrative hearings a lot of the time. But the idea is, how can we ensure that kids are growing up with health and safety and protections in these different government systems that they go through, so that the justice systems and those child welfare systems, those education systems, there's a lot of laws around them. They're difficult for kids to navigate, they're difficult for families to navigate, and that's why we come to be that advocate and that voice.
Man, look, I've been with CLC for a while, and I never knew the depths of that. It's amazing how much you guys are actually doing. What are some of the programs you have? Educational programs. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I'll go into a little bit more detail. So in terms of
Mm,
educational programs,
mm,
we're serving children who are denied educational rights. So that could be enrollment issues, special education issues, disability rights, exclusionary discipline. We're also working with children who are going through, like this, those child welfare systems. So we even have a program that's targeted toward families and children who are dealing with familial addiction issues. So they have family members who have addiction issues, and in those situations, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, what's in the best interest of the child and what the child wants is to reunify with parents. And um, yanking kids away from their parents, that's not the way to go a lot of the time. That those bonds are really important, but how do we set those parents up to be successful, safe parents, and get both the children and the caretakers the trauma care and treatment and rehabilitation sometimes that they need in those situations. We have programs that work with teens and young adults. So this is maybe 16 to 23, 24 more often, and they're dealing with barriers to employment and to stable housing. They might be transitioning out of foster care, out of a juvenile detention facility, out of an adult detention facility. They might be coming out of shelters. A lot of them are homeless youth. So they're a little bit older, and the issues that they're facing oftentimes are around that homelessness, that instability in their teen and young adult life. And we're helping them with record sealing, with eviction protection, with figuring out how to remove and mitigate the obstacles that those evictions create. We serve children who have experienced different types of crime or victims of crime. So that could be family violence, it could be dating violence, domestic violence. A lot of them are victims of sexual assault, maybe human trafficking, just a variety of crime. And we serve the youth who need that assistance because a crime was committed against them, and now they're faced with a sometimes overwhelming legal process where they are entitled to certain protections. So do you give your testimony in open court, or do you do it separately, privately with the judge? Are you more comfortable answering certain types of questions or not answering certain types of questions? It's hard for kids to go through these processes, and so we represent them when they are they've been accused of something, and when somebody has been accused of something against them. And if I think I can give one takeaway for listeners as they listen to these programs, it's that there's this false dichotomy, I think, that's created in, I don't know, media, society, whatever, that there are children who are victims, and then there's children who are perpetrators, violent. There's good kids and bad kids, and it's a really false dichotomy. The kids that we serve who are victims of crime through our Crime Victims Project are also the kids we're serving who are accused of crime, who might have conditions of confinement issues, who might have record sealing needs, and so on. These are children right there in a developmentally very different place than adults. And I would say also adults don't have, there's no victims and criminals. And I say that in quotes for those who are listening. That's not how human beings work. But that's particularly not how children work. And the goal is to give children the support and help they need, whether or not they've made a mistake. And all children make mistakes. All adults make
Oh my
mistakes.
gosh, yeah.
And
I made a few myself.
that's right. So it's about empowering youth, and not writing them off, and putting them into a particular category. That youth are incredibly resilient. They are so able to turn things around. It's actually why the juvenile justice system is supposed to be rehabilitative, whereas the adult system has many. The theory behind the adult justice system includes punitive and retributive measures, which I disagree with, but that I digress. But they are actually set up for the juvenile system to be much more rehabilitative. It's because of the nature of youth development. So the goal in the long term through all these programs is that we can ensure that youth improve their economic stability, and that they achieve mental health and physical health.
Yeah.
They further their education. It's ensuring that positive connection with their families and their community.
I think I read on your website that so they can be a positive impact and have a positive impact on society. And that's really the goal, isn't it? You want every human being to be a functioning member of society. And so I think you're raising those odds. Let's move into what others can do, right? And to help you. Because I know the group down there. They're just so fantastic. I love the group down there at CLC. By the way, we call Children's Law Center CLC, lovingly here at SpliceNet. But so talk to me about some of the things that you do to raise awareness, some of the fundraisers, and how the public can have an opportunity to really get involved in help CLC.
Absolutely. So I guess I'll put it into three buckets. I've been doing a lot of three buckets, so we're gonna keep sticking with it. So
I like the
first,
bucket mentality. That's easy.
yes, so split it up. We don't charge our clients when we represent them. We do tons of community presentations. We develop policy briefs. We don't charge people to get that policy research or to come to our um, education events for families and so on. So the way that we're able to do this work is through donations, is through gifts from the community. So the really big way that somebody can support organizations like this is make sure that we can turn on our lights, that we can compensate our staff so that they can also have the ability to keep doing this work. We do have annual events, and they were kind of stopped around COVID times, and we're going to continue this year. We're in the process of thinking through what our next big annual event is, so keep your eyes and ears open. We'll have some large fundraising event, but go to our website. It's childrenslawky.org. So children's with an S, lawky.org. And you can donate through the website. Just kind of click right in that top 3 lines and scroll down. Donate will be a big button. It's huge. I mean, every gift helps. So you can give $50, you can give $500, you can give $5,000, you can give $5. It's all going to help, and it's really critical. So supporting us in that way helps.
What about lawyer volunteers? Can lawyers and their staff help other
Yeah, so
than just volunteer time?
another way to help us is to volunteer. And it's not just lawyers, it's non-lawyers too. We can
Mm.
use help around fundraising, around communications. We have volunteers that come in at different times. We sometimes have specific volunteer needs even posted on our website. But of course, feel free to reach out to us if you're interested in volunteering. I can say even right at this present moment, I know we have volunteer attorneys. We have somebody who's volunteering around communications. We have lots of student volunteers. We have high school students, college students, and law students that come through our programs as volunteers and as interns. So absolutely, you can give of your time and of your skills. Another way I think that's really important. Is keep educating yourself, is learning. So it actually helps us when the community is knowledgeable about these things. So you can attend trainings from Children's Law Center, look at our website. There's lots of research materials that we've created, and also lots of other organizations. Keep yourself up to date. And that's important because we all have our spheres of influence. How do we hire, or are we a landlord? Are we interacting with our own clients in a particular way? So the more you know, the more you have impact in your sphere of influence. And of course, one big sphere of influence we all have is we're voters. So we can look through who we put into different office, but also how we advocate for different policies. So every once in a while, there will be some push from Children's Law Center for or against some legislation, and we lean on community members to call their representatives for or against whatever's happening. So another way to keep up with that is to look at our Facebook, our website, follow us on social media, and then we'll keep posting about volunteer opportunities, about giving opportunities, events, and advocacy that's going on.
Well, you know what? You just hit the last question I had for you. Was what if you had some asks or recommendations, right? Would those be those asks and recommendations for people that are listening or watching?
Yeah, and that's it. Keep in touch with us.
Mm-hmm.
Follow us on social media, and please, if you're able to, give of your time, talent, and treasure.
Oh, I
Donate
love
if
that
you're
one. The
able
triple T.
to.
The triple
Yes,
T.
and I think the other ask, and I had said this before, is just remembering that there are fundamental differences between youth and adults, and our systems have to acknowledge that. And we have to be really holistic in the way that we look at services for youth, and knowing that just one part of the system isn't going to resolve everything. The trains all have to be moving in parallel in the same direction. Um, one thing that I haven't mentioned, or maybe haven't hit on enough, is also the work we do acknowledges and tries to eliminate the disproportionate contact of youth of color with incarceration, with
Okay.
victimization, and so on. And so I want to be out there with that ask, is to be aware of the way that these systems, I mean, they harm all of us. They do it at different rates. And so that's something that our organization works toward as well.
Well, I gotta say, I appreciate it. I'm gonna put a link to the website in the comments of this show on LinkedIn. Okay, so if you're a listener on podcast on Pandora or Spotify or iHeart, or any of the platforms, you can go to LinkedIn and search "No Law Firm Left Behind," and you'll find this for the link. So I may even be able to get it somewhere on the podcasts as well, Sasha. And if they want to reach out to you, your link for your profile, I believe I put that in the posting for this show today. But if not, I'm going to put a link for your profile as well in LinkedIn, if that's okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. The more people can connect with us, I'm grateful for it. And you said it too. Kids are our future, so this is
Oh my
a
gosh.
way to keep up with that future, and focus on
I've
all
seen
the
some.
positive
I've
stuff.
seen some situations. I've seen some situations. I ran a basketball league, a volunteer basketball league for kids for 13 years of all classes of kids. I've seen a lot of different things. I love the story where a little girl who was being taken care of by the grandmother and her sister, little sister, mom and dad were incarcerated, right? And she came, and how excited she was when her mom was released from incarceration. Kids, they're overlooked, right? They can't communicate like we do. And so because of that, and stature also a little bit, right? They just don't get the voice that they need. And I appreciate and just love the effort that CLC is putting forth for kids. So I thank you and the entire group. I really do, from my heart.
Thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk about the work, and I'm grateful for your support of it.
Well, really quick to close this up. If you're not a member of No Law Firm Left Behind on LinkedIn, okay, this is a group we've got, and Sasha is a member of it. Well, she's going to be a member of it very soon, and so she's a member of No Law Firm Left Behind on LinkedIn. This is our private, exclusive group. We put all of our posts in here. It's specifically for this podcast. Please go be a member of that group. Sorry for the URL. LinkedIn does not give us pretty URLs for our groups. Unfortunately, I'm still lobbying for that myself. In addition to that, if you want to catch us on podcast, you can go search any of the podcast platforms for No Law Firm Left Behind. And but if you want a nice place where all of them are listed in one place, go to our link tree. It's under linktree.e. So .ee at /splice net. You can also search that. And we've got a whole list of all the podcasts and all the past shows on YouTube and so on and so forth. Remember, we're here every week from 10:30 to 11 o'clock Eastern time every Tuesday. Sasha, thanks so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing you for lunch here pretty soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Jim.
That's all right. Take care, everyone, and have a great week.